Hello, everyone, and welcome to the ASME's A Day in the Life webinar series brought to you by Engineers for Engineers. I'm Rani Haroun, and your host for today's webinar. For those that are attending our event for the first time, what is the purpose of this webinar and what is A Day in the Life webinar series all about? You probably wondered at some point what a day in the life of a mechanical engineer working at top companies would be like. Now you have the chance to find out through this interactive webinar series. In a minute or so, I will introduce our special guest speaker of today. But first, let me tell you how this webinar will work. Starting with some housekeeping, all webinar participants are signed in listen mode only. So please type in any questions you might have in the dialog box on the webinar platform anytime during this webinar. All questions will be answered after the introduction of our guest speaker. In fact, the Q&A session will be an integral part of this webinar. You may ask any kind of questions, whether it's related to the mechanical engineering field, the company, the industry, career-related questions, or any questions related to the speaker's job or position. So for those who are not familiar with how YouTube Live works, this is where you can type in your questions. Simply type them into the chat box in your YouTube control panel as shown here. We'll probably get a lot of questions, so we'll do our best to answer as many as we can. So let's get started and introduce you to our guest speaker. So please meet Arash Farhani, Senior Manager and Principal Mechanical Engineer at Blue Origin. Arash, thank you so much for being with us today. We're very, very excited to have you with us. Can we start with you introducing yourself and telling us your story?
Hello, everyone. Thanks for the introduction, Ronnie. I'm Arash Farahani. Like most of you, I'm a mechanical engineer. Today I would like to give you a quick overview of what I have been up to in the past 16 years. And it's going to be just one of the paths that you can take as a mechanical engineer. For some of you that are already in the industry, you're experienced, you know that depending on choices we make, we'll end up in different sectors. For those of you that are students, they are thinking about picking a field. If you have any questions, that's the purpose of this webinar. Just ask me, and I will try to answer your questions to the best I can. So without further ado, I'm going to go and start with my background. I got my PhD in mechanical engineering from Sussex University back in England. And at the same time, I worked on some jet engines, the turbine section for Rolls-Royce. And after that, I joined an engineering firm to work on moving structures, like moving bridges and any large moving structure. That was my passion to work on. And I ended up working on some really interesting projects, including floodgates, flood defenses, and moving, lifting, swinging bridges. Moved to the States, and I joined a telescope company working on the largest ground-based telescope in the world, which is being built in Chile. And I was the lead engineer for the engineering firm. And after that, I joined SpaceX as their senior launch engineer, working on launch pads. Multiple launch pads from 39A and 40 at Cape Canaveral in Florida to the Air Force Base station in Vandenberg. And also I worked on recovery of some of the flight hardware, but overall staying on the ground-based side, which in the industry is called GSC, ground support equipment. So again, my passion is large moving structures, and they typically don't fly. So I work on the ground-based systems. After working for SpaceX, I joined another firm, engineering firm, working on architectural engineering firm, working on some innovative designs, mechanical M&E systems, mechanical and structural systems for that firm. And after that, I joined a satellite company, staying with the aerospace team, and working on the GSC and mechanical engineering support for building satellites. And after that, here I am at Blue, working on building a new launch pad at LC-36 in Florida at Cape Canaveral. Again, I'm just proud to be a mechanical engineer and have the opportunity to work on these amazing projects. So again, as a mechanical engineer, you will have so many options to pick from. This is just my story over the past 16 years. It's compressed in 2 minutes, but please ask me any questions about the specific companies or specific projects. As long as it's publicly available, I can comment on that. Otherwise, I just pass it to you for your questions.
Thank you so much, Arash. So you heard our audience. So you heard Arash. So please do not be shy. Again, when you have an opportunity like today, where you have someone who worked for the most, if not, the most, if not the actual, top aerospace company, you don't get that every day. So do not please be shy and feel free to ask questions. So how about we begin, Arash, with your typical day, if there is a typical day for you.
As a typical day, I would like to start with a typical day for a mechanical engineer, and then I can switch to a typical day for me as in my current role. As a typical mechanical engineer, you show up to work depending on your assignments. If you are with the ground-based team, you will be working on large steel mechanical structures that involves doing hand sketches to creating 3D models and running analysis. And that's a typical engineering work day. For my current role, I have a team that I manage. So it's that I'd love to be technically involved, but the portion of my current job is just to work with my report and make sure the team stays on track, on budget, and on the schedule. So, but as a mechanical engineer, what you would be doing would be working on, if you're on the ground-based side, on the ground side, and if you're working on the vehicle, you will be working on flight hardware. Any other questions?
So sorry, I thought we lost you, Arash. No, I think the follow-up question would be, I guess, and we're getting some questions already from the audience, so I'll ask those in a minute. Sure. But just to follow up on your role today, if you can just tell us what you find the most challenging about your current job.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's an easy question. Working on projects and problems that they haven't been solved before. So as a mechanical engineer, you are being trusted, and I'm being trusted to solve those problems. And you are being given all the tools you need to come up with solutions. And the excitement and the challenge, they kind of coexist, is just to use the tools learn the tools you don't know, you're not familiar with, and use them to solve a problem. And once you come up with a solution and you get it to work after months of testing and running your analysis, the day that you see your system works, that's the ultimate joy, at least for me.
Mhm. And what do you like? What do you like the most then about your job?
Designing, creating new systems from scratch, creating mechanical systems, structural systems, things that they didn't exist, coming up with ideas. And some ideas are not great ideas, and then you filter them out. So going through the entire design cycle, that's what I love about my job, that I can sit down and come up with designs that they are going to be built. And one day they're on the screen, and the next they're welding a steel.
Any project, special project that stands out that you're the most proud of?
For the current project, we are working on obviously the launch pad for New Glenn, which is, if you look at the comparison, is one of the largest rockets, which is going to be built. So working on the ground GSC side is amazing, because you get to work on the largest pieces of equipment you have ever worked on. And by comparison, some of those large bridges I was mentioning earlier, they don't even come close in terms of the sheer size. And that this information is publicly available. The audience can look it up. The size of the New Glenn rocket is out of this world, and it's fantastic and so exciting to work on a team that is developing the foundation for this mission.
Okay, thank you, Raj. So first question here from the audience. I'm just going to pick the first one here. So what is your advice for college students to get their first job in mechanical engineering?
That's a good question. I had the same question when I was getting my degree. And I would say that try to study the market in terms of what companies are asking the candidates to have, and list all these criteria, requirements, and see. And if you compare them, you will see some of those softwares, they come up over and over and over again. Some of those skills, it's common. There's an overlap. Being in the aerospace industry, pretty much you can write a job description and just move it from one company to another because the tools and the software and the approach is kind of streamlined. So in order to get a good job or be prepared for the job market, I would say research the companies and see what they need, and based on that, try to get yourself familiar with those tools, and then kind of gauge yourself just to be a better match for that specific sector you want to work in. That would be one of my advice.
That's a very good advice. So is this so if that's can you tell us then how you applied that to get your first job?
Sure. I did not apply that, and I didn't know, because I didn't ask this question, because there wasn't an ASME webinar, so I couldn't ask my question. So I learned it the hard way. I joined the company and I wasn't familiar with the tools, and so I was behind the curve. I had to learn it, and I had to kind of get myself up to speed to what was needed. But for the next job, I researched it, and I noticed that, it seems for non-aerospace companies, they use, for example, SolidWorks a lot. And if you know SolidWorks, you are going to have an edge when you submit your application. You know, oh, we need someone with SolidWorks experience. This person has SolidWorks experience. So I basically learned SolidWorks and applied it, and it just helped getting the next job and so on. So it's just on the software side, and sometimes it's just getting your resume in a good shape and tailoring it. You know, I know you have all heard this many times. Tailor it for what you need and what you want, and that's going to be a good recipe for success.
Thank you, Arash. Which, I'm not quite sure if you can answer this one, but we'll ask it from a question from Mudassir here. Which softwares are must for the mechanical engineers in this era?
All right, that I can actually answer that question, but nothing is specific to Blue. It's for aerospace cross board, something that you can go and research and find out. I would say you, as a mechanical engineer, we should arm ourselves with like 3 CAD tools and couple of FEA tools. I would say we start with SolidWorks, NX, and for engineer now is Creo. So if you know these 3, you're in a good shape from the CAD side. And on the FEA side, for smaller companies, if you know just SolidWorks simulation, that would do the job. For bigger companies, you probably want to learn ANSYS. And once you get into ANSYS, there are so many different modules. You know, you can learn about, you know, CFD or mechanical, but ANSYS mechanical, that's a good tool to know. Pretty much you can use it anywhere. So combination of your CAD tools and your FEA tools, that's what's trending, at least, you know, in the past 15, 16 years.
So question from Yarlene, you've been working as a mechanical engineer since the beginning, but what is your recommendation for someone that has not been working as a mechanical engineer and want to start to do it?
So the question is getting into the field, or?
Yes, getting in the field if you're not in the mechanical engineering field. So coming from outside.
Just, all right, so I would say we all have our ideal positions and companies we want to work for. Your first step, just think of it as the first job, which is going to be your platform that you will find your dream job like after that. So you're going to start as a junior engineer. You're not going to know most of the stuff that they want you to work on. So you are going to learn. So pick a company. Probably I would say start with I mean, if you can start with a larger company, that's great. But smaller companies, in my past experience, worked well. You know, you start with a small company. It's a small team. You learn a lot because you're not too far from the CEO, you're not too far from the principal engineer. So you learn a lot. So my advice would be, if you can, look into smaller companies and smaller companies with experienced employees. Then you can learn from them. The first step is learning from others. And as a junior engineer, that's people will work with you. And that's a huge advantage. After 15 years, if you go and start asking basic questions, probably you're not going to get the same help that you would get as a junior engineer. So make the most of it, ask many questions, and join a small company. And after that, you can just find your way to larger companies.
Okay, great. Question from Braden. What technical skills would be most useful to develop for the aerospace field? So I know you mentioned SolidWorks and you know, some other softwares, and I guess the question is really more, I guess, specific to the aerospace field. If there are any specific technical skills that you would recommend for Braden to learn so that he gets, you know, he gets his chances of landing a job in the aerospace field increase.
Apart from the software tools, it's just the attitude, just to be willing to learn. Most aerospace companies, they're, apart from the ones that they have been around for ages, they have got this startup mentality, and they thrive on people learning. And even though you don't need to know everything when you join, but you are expected to be willing, and we're working really hard to learn and apply what you don't know. And I think that's a good approach there. In order to what you would put on your resume to get in, apart from those software skills, most of it is what you have actually learned in school, all the, structural side, mechanical side, weld calculations. If you are staying on the mechanical structural side, the flight hardware is a different story. But just tailor it to what's being required, just to show that you have that knowledge and you have the foundation. I think if you can demonstrate that you have the foundation and you can build on it, you will get an interview. Again, that's been just my experience. But in aerospace industry, they're very open to young engineers. That's why there is a huge intern community, right? But interns, most of these aerospace companies, they have intern programs. So another option here would be just to try to see if you can get internship in some of those aerospace companies. And from internship, once you're there, you need to work really hard to stand out. And then that internship will could turn into a permanent role with the aerospace company. And if not, you can always use it for your next aerospace company job that you apply for, just to say, hey, I worked for this other company as an intern. And then you learn some of the lingo and just put it on your resume, and then you have an edge.
That actually was one of the question that Danielle had as far as internship. He was asking specifically about Blue, if you had any tips landing an internship at Blue.
I directly don't interact with the internship team. I understand there is a program, and you can reach out to our recruiting team and try to get involved with the internship program. I'm typically at the receiving end of it, and just sign off on like number of interns that I would love to have. So, but I don't get involved in the process of actually selecting the interns. So I'm afraid I'm not that familiar with that process.
Perfectly okay. Thank you. So a question from Curtis. So how much of your day do you spend in status meetings, collaborative working meetings, and then working independently? And how many of those are planned versus ad hoc?
Okay. I'm going to split this question because I don't want to freak you out about being a mechanical engineer in aerospace. Right now, because of my responsibilities, I'm in many meetings, and 90% of them are planned. I've got meetings back to back. Sometimes I'm in about 14 meetings a day. So very meeting heavy because I'm the manager. But my engineers, they are in less meetings. They get to spend more time doing engineering works. I would say it's probably a 60-40, 40% meetings for the mechanical engineers, across board, and it's in line with other companies that my comment is aerospace in general. So it's about 40% meeting, 60% engineering, and those meetings I'm including some of those requests and phone calls that you didn't plan for, but you get pulled into these meetings because they're trying to get some answers for some questions that you are the RE, responsible engineer, for. So that would be a relatively good balance. And the lucky ones, probably they do 80-20. So
that's perfect. I think you covered actually even the follow-up question that Curtis had, as far as some question, from the perspective of your direct report. So thank you, Arash. Question from Joseph. As far as design, you probably don't do that, but in your opinion, or at least when you used to design, do you tend to start with a blank sheet design or lean more towards making a derivative of an existing design?
So that's an excellent question. And there are different schools of thoughts here. The way I do it is I sit down and I try to come up with solutions without looking at what's done. That's my first cut, because I want to know, like, can I come up with a solution? But I don't spend too much time on it. I try to say, okay, that would be my idea, and then I will go and spend a good amount of time researching and seeing if maybe I don't find the exact solution, but something similar, or this portion of it has been used in another project by another company. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. If it has been done, let's utilize it. It's all about efficiency. If I'm going to be more efficient to use the existing design, or just get some ideas from other companies, that's great. We should all do that. And so that's how I approach this. I start with my sketches, and then I compare them. And sometimes I say, hey, that was my idea too, but then they got to it before me. So or sometimes I realized that I missed some of those great concepts, and there are companies that they are doing it that way. So that's my initial steps.
Great. Another question from Joseph. So how long in your career did it take to start having direct reports? And I guess I'm going to turn the question a little bit differently here, but for those that are looking to get into management, I guess what is your recommendation there?
Unless you don't want to have reporters or you don't want to manage the team, it will happen. As you get more experience, as you have more years, you will be given engineers to manage, and you can't probably it's harder to avoid that than actually saying yes. So I would say after probably 5 to 10 years, in that range, you will get reports. You would be the lead probably in 3 years, to 5, but they don't directly report to you. But having direct reports, doing people management, personnel management, and all of that, probably in the range of 5 to 10. But it varies from company to company. But that's just my experience.
Gabriel was actually wondering about that specific, question, whether for you to get a management position, if you needed a master's or PhD.
No, having a PhD is not required. Having a master's not required. Having an MBA, definitely not required. It's nice to have, but it's all about how you interact with people. I think personal skills, just how you reach people, how you talk to people, and how you manage people. They are the keys that people would look at. You could have 3 PhDs, but if you just are a bad manager, you will never be managing a large team. So there is no requirements. It's just learning from good managers And surprisingly, you will be learning a lot more from bad managers. That's like you just look at them and say, oh, the way he's managing, I don't want to be like him. And you avoid doing that. That would make you a good manager. Uh, so to answer your question, without having any management experience, if you start, you'll become the lead probably for a couple of years, and then you will get promoted to be a manager after another couple of years after that. So because you need to have a foundation in terms of your technical side too. Then you can talk to your direct reports at the engineering level. So again, 5 years plus before you can have direct reports.
Okay.
Again, they're just my estimates. By no means they are, these numbers are set in stone.
How did you know you wanted to go into a more managerial route as opposed to the expert PE route?
Yeah, I struggled with that at some point in the past. I was trying to be a principal engineer and a state principal till I retire. And then I was leading and I had a team, and I never thought I would get that much joy out of managing a team. But then when you see your reports are doing great, you are growing. I mean, they are growing in their career, and then they're getting better, and the projects are just being done on time, and you're delivering on time. That's a different kind of joy you get versus putting together a fantastic design. So it's a bit of a delicate balance here, because you could be a manager, but you could be a technical manager, and that's something that I'm doing now. I mean, I'm involved in the designs. Right now I'm not doing the designs myself, but I am involved in reviewing them, providing feedbacks, etc. So I'm still getting the joy from the design side, but just managing the team, that's a different joy, I guess. So it's once you experience it, and if you enjoy managing people, you would know. And I think the good probably sign for that is once you're the lead, they're not reporting to you, you are a lead. You have a couple of engineers, you're leading them. If you enjoy doing that, if you enjoy just getting projects done, reporting to the managers and directors, and keeping a schedules and budget while you are working on the design, I think that's how you know if you would like to be in the management position.
Great, thank you, Arash. Question from Justin. So I'm 36 with 14 years of experience in a completely unrelated industry, which is oil and gas. What are your thoughts on transitioning into aerospace mid-career, especially without taking a 50% pay cut? Let's start with the transitioning.
All right. I think that in aerospace industry, I have seen so many people from oil and gas. So this is a transition that has been happening. It's not going to be unique to you, and it's not going to stop anytime soon, because the skills, they are really comparable and transferable. You need to learn about some space related topics, but because we are covering the ground-based side, so we are going to be in aerospace mechanical structure engineers. We are on the ground side, so our systems, they don't really fly, right? So it's very close to oil and gas. So I would say switching, if you're passionate about these kind of projects, I would, again, I don't know your background well, but I would say that's a good move, because this industry is growing, and it's just going to get better and better and better. And it seems aerospace, the funding is there, or it seems it's there, and every day new technology is coming out. It's really it's a great time to be a mechanical engineer, and so if you decide to switch, I think, and if you switch for a year or two, and if you don't like it, you can always go back, because you have got 14 years of experience. You can apply for senior jobs, and you probably can get them, in relatively speaking, easy. So I would say, if you like aerospace, switch. And on the salary side, and I'm not ignoring that, there are going to be some, some companies, they pay like a lot in aerospace. Some companies don't pay a lot. So it's not a blanket statement that you have to take a big pay cut. Sometimes you go from aerospace to aerospace, you get a huge pay cut. So it's all about the company and the location and what you can negotiate, which is a completely different topic, and we need a separate webinar for that. So yeah, that's my answer. Does that answer your question?
I think so. So we'll wait for him and see if he has any follow-up question. Justin, let us know, so we'll monitor it. What do you wish you would have studied more, or did better in college?
Excellent question. Probably dynamics. Yeah. It probably would have been great if we paid more attention to dynamics in some of those mechanisms, and yeah, probably dynamics. Yep, that's my final answer.
Okay. How relevant is coding in mechanical engineering? So I know we kind of touched on that a little bit, but in your opinion, how important it is and relevant it is for a mechanical engineer to know coding?
Coding, like programming?
Yes.
Just know enough so you can talk to the control people and electrical engineers and controls team. That's it. I don't think you need to know coding. I know it's a hot topic. People love to learn coding, and I have not seen a project that I had a mechanical engineer that couldn't do his job because he didn't know coding.
That makes perfect sense. What is Blue Origin's corporate culture with work-life balance? I've read a lot about experiences where some top space companies demand a lot of their employees' time, nights and weekends.
Well, to the extent that I can answer that question, I think from my experience, it has been good. And again, you hear that for all the aerospace companies, right? They make you work every weekend, and they don't let you sleep at night, and you have to work overnight. That's actually not completely true. And you work till your task is complete, and the tasks, typically you sign up for them and you commit to a date, and then you work on it. Sometimes you work extra hours, not because we are being asked to work the extra hours, because we are trying to hit some of our deadlines that, sometimes they're self-imposed and sometimes they're needed for the project. So it's relatively balanced. I mean, as balanced as it could get for aerospace companies, especially if they are startups. So I would say it's not as bad as people make it sound.
So it's more like a project-based, I guess. You're given a task or project, and you're kind of it's kind of your responsibility to get it done and manage your own time until it's done.
Yeah, pretty much.
what do you think you would be doing if you didn't work for Blue Origin, or if you were not a mechanical engineer?
I would be a structural engineer. It's if it's not mechanical, it's going to be structural. It wouldn't be an electrical engineer. So that's it. So I'm gonna switch between mechanical and structural, and as a mechanical engineer, we're gonna spend a good amount of our time living in the civil world, and just doing structural engineering work as well. So it's the best of both worlds because it goes one way. Typically, structural engineers don't get involved in mechanical engineering tasks, but mechanical engineers, we are always doing structural engineering work. So yeah, a structural engineer.
What ways do you think you could still improve in your career?
Oh, you just have to learn. Just open your eyes and look around, and you can learn from others. You can learn from people who have been in the business for 30 years, 40 years, projects that different companies are doing. It's just endless. You can always improve. It could be a new software. It could be a new tool, or more importantly, just by learning from more senior people, to see how they run the teams, how they design. It's great just to learn from other team members, and that's priceless. That's something you can't really learn at university. You need to be in a company and build those relationships that then you can benefit from it.
Is there anything in particular for that applies to you that that you're thinking of learning or improving on?
Yeah, absolutely. When I was a junior engineer, so I didn't realize this at the time, but our CEO, which was our managing director, assigned me to a project and gave me responsibility to be the project manager for a project that I definitely wasn't qualified to do, but I was trusted with some guidance. I finished the project, and that was a huge confidence builder for me. And that's what I learned from him. And I'm basically using the same techniques for my team. And whenever I'm managing a team, that's what I do. I have the saying that's like, trust, but verify. So just trust people, let them do their work, and then verify the work. And that's something that I've learned. And it's based on learning from others.
Okay. What are the typical career paths for your role now that you're a principal? And yeah, so let's start with that.
Yeah, at this point for me is if I continue on the management path, it's going to go up to director, senior director, and go up from there. And the good news is, as mechanical engineers, with our experience over the years, we can always switch. You can just go from principal to chief engineers. So either you can go down the technical path, or you can go down the managerial path. So you could be a chief mechanical engineer somewhere, or you could be the SVP with a mechanical engineering degree. But for now, I'm just down on the technical management side.
Okay. Can you, I'm assuming that at your position now, you do not as your manager, but you also provide mentorship to some AMEs. Can you tell us what it's like, or if there are even like opportunities to get mentored at Blue Origin or at other companies that you worked in the past?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. In companies I've worked for, mentorship has been big on the list, and Blue Origin is no different. and we assess the engineers to see, based on their experience, which areas they need mentorship, and more junior engineers, they get the full attention. And I've been working with them directly just to make sure they're on the right path, and providing them, mostly just pointing them to the right direction and making sure they know you are there if they need help. That's it's not teaching people how to do things, it's just showing them the path and they will find a way. And again, for our engineers, that's been the case.
Great. I think we're almost at the top of the hour, and I know you have a hard stop. Arash will stop in exactly 13 minutes. So for the audience, please, if you have more questions, please do not hesitate. We just have time for a few more questions. Another one that I have, or I think I saw actually being asked from the audience for you, Arash,
Sure.
is in terms of mistakes. Obviously, we all make mistakes, and engineers, I'm sure they make mistakes. Can you share or tell us, I guess, what are your thoughts on when you make a mistake, and as an engineer, how you fix them, and what are your thoughts on how to go about
Sure. That's that's a very important point, and I'm happy that this question is being asked, because we make mistakes. I made mistakes. Some of them could have been pretty bad. So, to me, the path forward after making a mistake is, first of all, to acknowledge that you made a mistake, and second, try to assess the severity of that mistake. Okay, was it a mistake? Did I just put a wrong safety factor somewhere, or is it something that is going to impact the entire company? But regardless, you need to approach this and in a way that you were reviewing someone else's mistake. Don't think about your mistakes, that's the mistake you made. Think about those mistakes in terms of, if someone made this mistake, how would you approach that? And once you take yourself out of the equation, it becomes clear to you. And in the past, I basically sat down and wrote all the things that went right and things that went wrong and the mistakes that were made, and trying to run some kind of a root cause analysis in terms of why did it happen? How can we avoid that? And once you start listing mitigations and explanation in terms of the storybook, in terms of the reason for that mistake, then you can come up with solutions and make sure it's not going to happen in the future. But the responsibility stays with us. We make mistakes, we have to own this, and we have to fix it. Just be transparent about your mistakes. Do not try to hide them. Do not try to fix them and hope that no one is going to notice. Come up with a solution and go to your team and share that. It will be received a lot better than them finding out like 2 months down the line that you made a mistake and you try to cover it up. So that would be my advice. Just be transparent, try to fix it to the best you can, and share that information, as soon as possible.
Great. How does Blue Origin support professional development? Is it via in-house training, external training, conference, etc.?
It's pretty much in line with the rest of the industry. It's a combination of all, in-house. I mean, like, if you want to advance your career, the path is there. The tools are there. If you have time to take advantage of it, it's a different story. But the infrastructure is there for you to become a better engineer. No one is stopping us as mechanical engineers to be better mechanical engineers a year down the line.
What is something that you wish you knew when you were a young engineer?
Oh, that's an excellent question. Uh, I'm going to give you like a long answer to this short question. So when I was a young engineer, I was very young. I was thinking that it's about just getting a great job with a great salary. So the funding, and the compensation was top of the list. Then over the years, I learned that it's about the company as well. So working for a great company became my top priority. And then I gained more experience. Then I learned it's not about the company. It's about the project. Could be working for a great company, working on a terrible project. So then I focused on projects. That's why I was asking about the projects in my interviews, what kind of project I'm going to be working on. And then, which is now, I don't know what my understanding is going to be 10 years from now, but right now, and then I learned that this is about the team you're working with. It's not about the project, it's about your teammates. It's about the people you work with, people you see every day. They can make your life great or very miserable. And the joy that you get from going to work, the big portion of it comes from your teammates, and they play a big role. So working with a great team, that's top of my list. Well, right now. So I wish I knew that when I was a junior engineer, but I learned it over the years. But again, I think it's still plays better than never.
Great. What keeps you motivated every day in your job?
That there's something to be solved. I don't know everything, and I'm willing to learn. And I go to work, and end of the day, I do this thing that end of each day, I look back and I think to myself that uh, did I improve the project? Did I push the project forward? Did I learn something today? And the answer is, it better be yes. And that's what keeps me going. The day that I go to work and I'm not learning, I'm not doing anything exciting, that's a bad day. So my motivation comes from moving forward, solving problems, working on new projects, just basically not being boring.
That's great. So I think we're going to wrap it up here. I usually like to end it with you, I guess, Arash, with all the great advice. If you can sum it up and tell us what would be, I guess, your recommendation for not just young members, because we had more senior members today. So what would be your advice?
So no pressure, huh? So if I had to give one piece of advice, that would be work in a place that makes you happy. And it could be a small company, it could be a large company, it could be somewhere you're gonna get paid less than what you're getting paid now. As long as you're happy with what you do, if you're a senior engineer, if you're a junior engineer, it doesn't matter. You go home happy, you go to work happy. That is priceless. And it took me a long time to learn this, but I think finally I got it. So my advice would be, if you're not happy in your current position or with a company, find a place that you're happy with. We do not have to, we are mechanical engineers. We have the tools and we can go and work for a number of companies. So work for a company and a team, that's the most important part, that makes you happy. And that's my only advice, I would say.
Great, thank you so much, Arash. So wrap it up here. Again, thank you to you, Arash. Great advice. And thank you for the audience for attending today's webinar. I hope you all enjoyed it and found it helpful. You will find the recording online on the ASME's website. As usual, just go to the asme.org/a-day-in-the-life. You will find the webinar recording there. Otherwise, you will also get a survey in a few minutes. So we'll just ask you to please fill it out, as it will help us improve our next webinar. So thank you again, Naresh. Thank you for the ASME members to attend this this webinar, and you all have a great rest of the day. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you all. Bye.